Y seguimos desde la estación de Francia, aquí en Vinyl Logistics. No podemos parar, llevamos desde las 11 de la mañana non-stop. Por aquí han pasado, bueno, las voces más relevantes del sector de la logística, voces que nos han inspirado a lo largo del día. Hemos mirado hoy mucho al futuro, hemos hablado de mujeres y ahora no podemos dejar de mirar hacia el futuro. No os perdáis esta keynote, que es súper interesante. Mirad, en julio de 2013, Elon Musk, uno de los personajes del mundo de la tecnología más destacados de los últimos años, definió el proyecto en el que estaba trabajando como una mezcla de, atención, un Concorde, un cañón de riel y una mesa de air hockey. Un mes después realizó la presentación de su nueva creación, el Hyperloop. ¿Qué es el Hyperloop? Pues es una nueva y revolucionaria forma de transporte que se encuentra actualmente en desarrollo por varias compañías, que podría transportar pasajeros y mercancías, atención, a 1.200 kilómetros por hora en cápsulas flotantes dentro de tubos de baja presión. Vamos, esto parece una serie de Netflix casi. Bueno, yo creo que el Hyperloop es el equivalente del BNEW, pero en transporte terrestre. Vamos a ponernos unas cuantas medallas. En la siguiente keynote vamos a conocer más de cerca el proyecto Hyperloop y los retos que supone para el futuro del transporte inteligente y autónomo. Nos acompaña la directora senior de Alianzas y Políticas Globales de Virgin Hyperloop. Pues la presento, es Diana Zhu. Hello Diana, welcome to Vinyl Logistics. Good afternoon from Barcelona, good morning to you from Los Angeles. Let's go to the keynote.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone from Los Angeles, and good afternoon to you. It's great to be here today as part of the BMU conference. My name is Diana Zhao, and I'm Virgin Hyperloop's Senior Director of Global Alliances and Policy. Everyone always asks me, everyone always starts by asking me, what is Hyperloop? So I'm going to start with a short video first. I always find that it's best to show you what is Hyperloop. So if I can, let's cue up the video, please.
On demand. On demand. Today it's novel. Tomorrow it will be expected. The global growth of e-commerce is driving a consumer behavior shift where goods and services are delivered rapidly, immediately. DP World sees the need for an advanced new network to support this future. Throughout history, cargo has always been the catalyst for transport revolutions. Today, DP World has partnered with Virgin Hyperloop One to realize the next leap in transport and make Hyperloop a reality. Pushing the boundaries of innovation, having the courage to do something different. The new cutting-edge linear electric motor propels the pod magnetically through the interportal. A series of pumps remove nearly all the air inside the tube to allow for an energy-efficient, quiet, and incredibly fast journey. Our future ports will integrate Hyperloop technology for synchronized, seamless, intelligent movement of cargo. On demand, direct, autonomous. Hyperloop can deliver exceptional service for high-priority on-demand goods at the cost of trucking and the speed of flight. Sustainable operations powered by renewable energy. Utilizing network capacity for both freight and passengers. Goods are seamlessly transferred to autonomous vehicles while passengers are taken to the heart of the city. Rapid, effortless deliveries and the freedom from having to plan too far ahead. Efficient supply chains that unlock greater capacity for growth. It's what the world demands. Introducing DP World Cargo Speed.
Go ahead, Diana, go ahead.
So you've just seen a short video introducing Hyperloop and the potential of Hyperloop to move cargo efficiently and sustainably. Indeed, in today's world with rising temperatures and the effects of climate change everywhere, it's extremely important to think about how we can create a future and invest in a future in a way that is sustainable. We are not poised to meet the demand of the upcoming decades. A few years ago, 2 days of delivery was novel. Today, it is expected. Today, on-demand deliveries are novel, and tomorrow they will be the expectation. In this age of rapid commerce, where consumers are increasingly expecting to have their needs met instantaneously, and with the COVID pandemic increasing the demand for online delivery of goods and services, we see the opportunity to expand the capacity for high priority on-demand goods, typically served by air. Those are things like fresh food, medical supplies, electronics, and more. Shipping high priority goods by air is expensive, and not to mention highly polluting. Air cargo currently accounts for less than 1% of world trade by weight, but 35% of world trade by value. The work that we're doing at Virgin Hyperloop with our partners DP World allows us to deliver cargo at the speed of flight and closer to the cost of trucking. Furthermore, DP World cargo speed systems are 100% electric and can be powered by renewable energy in some areas, ultimately enabling a more sustainable solution for cargo transport. It's the fast, sustainable, and efficient delivery of palletized cargo. Let me start by first taking a step back to explain what Hyperloop is and its impact on cargo. Ultimately, the Hyperloop is a surface transportation system. Pods carrying people or cargo travel inside a low-pressure tube using magnetic levitation and using electric propulsion. They can reach speeds of over 1,000 kilometers per hour. That is 3 times faster than high-speed rail and more than 10 times faster than traditional rail. This means deliveries can be completed in hours versus days, with greater reliability and fewer delays. But while speed is the first thing everyone thinks of when it comes to Hyperloop, there are also other characteristics of the Virgin Hyperloop system that makes it unique. First, the way in which the system operates is extremely efficient. The pod is much smaller than a traditional train, and so departures are frequent at every few minutes. You don't have to wait for hundreds of rail cars to be filled up and lined up before moving. This means you can have frequent on-demand departures. This means shrinking inventory lead times when it comes to moving freight, helping reduce finished goods inventory. And based on some work that we've actually done with McKinsey, a consulting firm, it can cut required warehouse space and costs by 25%. These networks can enable just-in-time, agile manufacturing practices. Second, all trips are direct to destination with no stops in between. So there is certainty and reliability when it comes to delivering shipments on time without waiting around for other cargo to be loaded and unloaded from the pod at intermediate stops. We do all of this with our high-speed switching technology, a proprietary technology, which allows us to move pods from the main trunk line to sidelines without any moving parts. Third, the pods are autonomously controlled. There are no human drivers on board the pod. Our centralized command and control system manages the movement of pods from their origin to their destination in a very automated way. This ensures safe and reliable passage throughout the network, and it also allows the system to respond to demand in a very nimble way. And finally, the system is entirely electrically powered, and so there are no direct emissions. And over its lifetime, the system will have a lower environmental impact than other modes of mass transportation. Sustainability in today's world is not a nice to have. It's absolutely a requirement for transportation that moves us forward. At Virgin Hyperloop, we are working to make this smart and autonomous system a reality. We're a company of close to 300 full-time employees, a majority of them engineers, both on the hardware and the software side. We've got technicians, machinists, even artificial intelligence and machine learning specialists. Our headquarters are in Los Angeles, and we also have a 500-meter test track in Nevada. It is the world's first full Hyperloop system with our magnetic levitation technology, electric propulsion system, guidance tracks, autonomous controls, pods, and low-pressure tube. And we've been testing on it ever since the middle of 2017, and we've reached speeds of over 380 kilometers per hour. Since then, we've been performing numerous safety and performance tests on the system to make it even more optimized and robust. Many people think of Hyperloop primarily in terms of carrying passengers from point A to point B. But what most people don't realize is that the Virgin Hyperloop system doesn't need it to be a passenger-only or cargo-only system. It can actually do both. We're designing a mixed-use system that fully utilizes system capacity while maximizing economic and social benefits. So for the same infrastructure and the same investments, you can move both people and cargo. And it is probably likely that our first projects will start with cargo. What we've been doing over the last few years is that we've been working with cities and governments all around the world to implement Hyperloop transportation solutions. And there are a couple of important points that I want to mention in regards to safe and autonomous delivery. The first is that technology is moving fast, and we need to think not only about maximizing efficiency within cities, but also between cities in a regional area. When we talk about smart and autonomous delivery, I've noticed that most people think about last mile delivery. So that means delivery of goods or meals from a local restaurant to a home, or retail products, consumer goods from a warehouse to the city center. I would argue that we should really be thinking about delivery on a much larger scale, a cross-regional scale. We're talking about large regional networks to create a better connected regional economy. For example, the delivery of fresh produce from Spain to the Balkans, of olives from Italy to Switzerland, cutting down the time it takes to get from farm to table, quite literally, and being able to have businesses access markets all over Europe and abroad at unprecedented speeds and at the cost of trucking. Hyperloop effectively maximizes the efficiency between two or more cities, allowing residences and businesses to access infrastructure like airports and seaports in a matter of minutes versus days. There's also enormous efficiency in the flow of human capital. People will be able to work in one city and live in another without having to uproot their family or make a hard decision between higher pay and affordable housing. Rapid transit between cities will also expand the labor pool and allow businesses to form industry clusters throughout the region. And these impacts are not the result just of technology, but the potential of technology working in tandem with regional strategic objectives. This is radically new disruptive technology, but it's disruptive in a new way. We can't drop off cars or scooters and ask for permission later. We're talking about large-scale infrastructure, and the benefits are, of course, equally massive. We need to reimagine what collaboration between governments, regulators, and partners look like to make this technology a reality. And that gets me to my second point, which is that when we talk about the scale of transformation, it's important to develop these solutions in conjunction with government, not by ourselves. We are working with our local partners, including city planners and transportation authorities, to understand the needs of those regions and provide the ultimate seamless service when it comes to transporting goods. We're working to expand freight transportation capacity by connecting with existing modes of rail, road, ports, and air transport, and will provide greater connectivity with manufacturing parks, economic zones, distribution centers, and regional urban centers. The treatment of Hyperloop as a type of infrastructure is not clear. Everyone knows how to build a road or a bridge or a tunnel, but what is actually required for Hyperloop is not too clear, which is why for us, a critical next step is the certification of the Hyperloop product. And again, that is working in tandem with government and with regulatory authorities. Every time you step onto a plane or a train or a car, you have faith that the technology has been approved, it's been checked, It's been certified by someone who knows what they're doing and has the authority to say that this technology is safe. We don't have that right now for Hyperloop, but we are working to build that. We are working to build this in a place where it can happen for Hyperloop, and we've been searching over the past year for a home for what we call the Hyperloop Certification Center, or the HCC. We actually have a very exciting announcement with regards to the location of that in the next few days, so stay tuned on our media channels for that. The HCC will help Hyperloop achieve key technological milestones like faster speeds and turning. We're also building a longer track of at least 10 kilometers that will help us achieve this. It will also help us achieve key safety certification milestones, like creating an international framework for safety certification. Our goal is to obtain certification by 2025, and we think that cargo could be a good first mover for this. Another example of how we are working in tandem with government can be seen by the progress that has been made on the regulatory and the policy front. In the US Department of Transportation issued a guidance document called Pathways to the Future of Transportation that provides a greater deal of clarity on the regulatory path forward to get Hyperloop certified. It clearly stated that Hyperloop falls within the jurisdiction of the FRA, or the Federal Rail Administration, and also established that Hyperloop is eligible for federal funding programs for both construction and planning phases, like rail and other more traditional modes of transportation. This is a huge step forward for the industry, and it is enormously exciting for us. In Europe, we're also heartened by the work that has been undertaken by the Director General of Mobility, DG Move, and Shift to Rail. Virgin Hyperloop has been a part of numerous workshops held over the past 2 years by both these entities, which have led to establishing a baseline for safety certification, system definition, the functional blocks of the Hyperloop system, and safety requirements. DG Move is now also carrying out a study to evaluate the options for a safety regulatory approach for Hyperloop. And we are also a part of the Spanish standards body working to create Hyperloop standards for the industry. And we are, of course, very excited to be a part of this greater effort. These regulatory advancements across both Europe and the US provide clarity and guidance on aspects affecting the design and deployment of Hyperloop technologies, and we are so excited to see where they go. And it is enormously important for the industry to move forward. In summary, the future of smart and autonomous delivery will be driven not only by things that are relatively easy to implement and incremental to what we are doing today, but the hard things, like building a better, more resilient, more robust infrastructure that can last for 100 years, that can create a more interconnected regional economy. We've got to think bigger. We've got to think more transformative. We can do this with Hyperloop. Hyperloop can create an infrastructure backbone on which these delivery platforms can run. But we can't do this alone. We have to do this in conjunction with governments, with transportation planners, and with others, with our local communities, to transform the future of smart and autonomous delivery. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Diana, for the fantastic keynote. Congratulations. And now let's go to the questions. What is the biggest obstacle to overcome in making futuristic mobility systems like Hyperloop happen?
Thank you, Clara. It's a very good question, and it's a very big question. What's important about Hyperloop is that it's not just about building a product. It's not about building a software app or technology that you can drop off somewhere and you can ask for permission or forgiveness later. We are building infrastructure, and infrastructure is really, really hard to do. We're building a mass transportation solution. And what that means is that disruption looks very different when it comes to infrastructure. To deliver innovation, you need to work, as the private sector, you need to work with governments and work with communities, with regulators, with local suppliers to execute on these big ideas and deliver billions in economic benefits. In a way, the role of the public sector, we think, is to define the sandbox, identifying the problems that need to be addressed, the needs of society, and the range of acceptable solutions. And the role of the private sector really is to define and build the optimal solution that fits within that sandbox. And so to that end, assurance and regulatory clarity that we are building the right things from the regulatory authorities is critical. We are soon seeing huge progress on that front from Europe, from the US, and also around the world, from the Middle East and from India as well. As I mentioned before in my keynote, in Europe, the European Commission's Directorate General for Mobility and Transport, DG Move, has been leading a lot of these discussions with Hyperloop companies to advance regulatory standards and the regulatory framework. In the US, the Department of Transportation and the Non-Traditional and Emerging Transportation Technology Council, the NET Council, it's quite a mouthful, unveiled the guidance document on how a clear regulatory framework for Hyperloop will be treated in the United States. And so these types of announcements provide not only a pathway for Hyperloop regulation and deployment in the US, but it also provides a clear framework on how a transportation project for Hyperloop can move forward when it comes to certification, when it comes to funding, and all of these other things. This type of relationship with government is extremely important in making these projects happen. So in summary, it is definitely not easy to create and deploy these future mobility systems, but it's extremely important to work together with government, with regulators to ensure that we're doing this in the right way. And it's important for those authorities also to provide guidance to the private sector that what we are building fits within the sandbox that they are defining.
Diana, what does the path to certification look like for Hyperloop? How far along in that process are you?
Right. It is definitely not very clear. We've seen a lot of clarity, as I've mentioned, a lot of guidance from regulatory authorities, but we are really only at the beginning of that pathway. As a new mode that transcends plane, train, and cars, we don't clearly fit into any kind of regulatory guidelines for existing modes. And so we really have to start by proving and demonstrating that we are safe. We're starting with a safety case, building our safety case to regulators, and we are committed to work with them to develop a new regulatory framework. We're also encouraged by the support that we have seen around the world to support Hyperloop certification and ensure that passengers can ride the Hyperloop in years, not decades. As I mentioned also in my keynote, one of the important things that we are doing, and actually a very big announcement that you'll see in the next couple of days, is that we are building a Hyperloop certification center. And what that means is that we are building a place where we can demonstrate a lot of the safety aspects of Hyperloop, such as higher speeds, turning. We are demonstrating how passengers will board and disembark from the pod. We are demonstrating how the portal can operate, what we call our stations. And so all of these things we are doing in a way that shows regulators that we are committed to the idea of safety when it comes to certifying this technology. We're also looking to use an independent safety assessor as an external body to validate the safety process for Hyperloop and for the Virgin Hyperloop system. So it's clear that we really have to work very closely with the regulatory authorities all around the world. We are starting to do this in the US and in Europe and in India and in the Middle East. And we're really looking forward to doing that in more detail, working in conjunction with those authorities at our Hyperloop Certification Center and all around the world.
Diana, has COVID-19 changed the need for Hyperloop projects at all?
No, actually, and to be frank, we were actually very heartened by this. In fact, it's further proven the need for investment in our future, also in a way that is sustainable and captures the values that we have today as a society. When this pandemic hit earlier this year in March, we made the decision to take a step back and leave many of our stakeholders and projects alone so that they could focus on the pressing crisis and make sure that they had all the support that they needed in order to accomplish that. But to our surprise, within a few weeks, they started calling us back and wanting to work with us, to engage with us further. They wanted to figure out how they could create an economic bounce back since they fear that certain jobs would dry up and never come back. So while Hyperloop may seem like sci-fi, it's really a change that keeps pace with today. With so much uncertainty across the economy, innovation is really the key to staying ahead and creating new jobs with highly transferable skills. And that's what we are doing. These types of crises allow us the freedom to shake off old cobwebs, to become more introspective, and to think about our collective lives differently. It's time to face up to the fact that our systems need major reworking. I think we've seen that with a lot of these infrastructure projects. And from this point on, there can be no recovery, only evolution.
Particularly in Europe, Diana, we have heard a lot of different Hyperloop companies. Are you all working together towards a common goal?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we are absolutely working together towards a common goal. I think we're very clear on what that common goal is, which is a hyper-connected world. A world where these economies across all areas, all geographies can be connected in a way that is accessible, that is affordable for everyone. As Hyperloop makes progress around the world, we continue to work closely with other companies on standards to connect routes, on regulatory frameworks, especially, as I mentioned before, in the working group that DG Move has created across different Hyperloop companies. In the same way that we're currently discussing with governments how to connect existing city transportation frameworks to make our technology truly intermodal. DG Move has had numerous workshops over the past 2 years that we've been a part of, and with 5 or 6 other Hyperloop companies. And we are working together to establish a baseline for safety certification, system definition, the functional blocks of the Hyperloop system. And it's also great to note that while it's not just the Hyperloop companies that are part of this and DG Move, we're also involving other regulatory agencies such as ERA, the Rail Agency of Europe, EASA, Aviation, and even the Space Agency, ESA. And as a result of this, DG Move is now carrying out a funded program to develop a regulatory framework for Europe, which is really exciting for us to see where that goes. So we are absolutely working with the other Hyperloop companies. I think we all have a common goal in seeing Hyperloop implemented and deployed all around the world. And it really is extremely exciting for us.
Importantísimo colaborar, lo hemos visto a lo largo hoy de casi todos los paneles. We have no more time for questions. Diana, thanks for joining us to BNew Logistics. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Bye.
Ha contado muchas cosas Diana Zhu en esta keynote. Voy a intentar resumirlo rápidamente, ¿no? Este Hyperloop que muchos de vosotros habéis descubierto hoy aquí en BNew Logistics. Este artilugio que es un cruce entre un Concorde, un cañón de riel y una mesa de air hockey y que puede transportar viajeros y pasajeros a más de 1.200 kilómetros por hora en cápsulas flotantes dentro de tubos a presión. Nos ha contado Diana que están trabajando conjuntamente, nos ha dicho que dentro de muy poquitos días van a hacer un anuncio sobre la ubicación de el Hyperloop en algún sitio, en algún lugar del mundo, puede ser India, quién sabe, los rumores apuntan a distintas partes. ¿Qué es Hyperloop? Es una revolución, es rápido, inmediato, que es lo que queremos ahora, ¿no? Es sostenible, eficaz, económico, exige, como en muchos de los proyectos que hemos visto hoy aquí, la colaboración público-privada. Virgin está en contacto con varios países, con los gobiernos, para poder implementar esta tecnología. Nos ha dicho que Virgin va a hacer realidad Hyperloop. Bueno, vamos a ver qué es lo que pasa, este anuncio que vendrá dentro de unos días. Y ha hecho bastante hincapié en el tema de la seguridad, de estas certificaciones, porque bueno, claro, antes de meterte en un tubo con un artefacto que te transporta a 1.200 kilómetros por hora, quieres estar seguro y segura que te va a llevar a alguna parte. Ha hablado también de este sistema mixto para transportar personas y mercancía, que va a ahorrar un 25% de costes y que la carga y la salida de los trenes prácticamente se va a hacer en muy poco tiempo. Pues bueno, hasta aquí no, porque ahora viene Alicia Asin. Vamos con esta charla inspiracional, sin dejar de mirar hacia el futuro, esta vez de la mano, como os digo, de toda una experta en inteligencia artificial y Big Data. Ella nos va a inspirar sobre los retos y oportunidades de las ciudades inteligentes del futuro, aquí en BNew, en nada, unos minutos. Hasta ahora mismo.